It's me again, back for another Taco-bout It Tuesday. This time I brought a friend. Say hello to the positive taco. He reminds us that it's okay to fall apart sometimes, that even tacos fall apart, and we still love them. So whether I fall apart while, making some of these videos, or you fall apart watching them, we're all going to be okay because even tacos fall apart and we love them still. Just let that be some encouragement for you. So, this week's topic is something that I still struggle with, but that I also encourage my clients and my friends and family to really practice and think about, and that's forgiveness. It's actually come up a lot through a lot of your questions in my DMs and just interacting with y'all as the body of Christ in life. So, let's talk about forgiveness. First of all, what is forgiveness? Well, the American Psychological Association defines forgiveness as the voluntary, conscious decision to release feelings of resentment, vengeance, or bitterness toward a person who has caused harm, regardless of whether or not they deserve it. It is an intentional process aimed at a personal healing and emotional relief rather than excusing the offender or reconciling the relationship. It's a pretty good definition. I agree completely. I've sat with it myself and I've sat with it with clients. And y'all, I have experienced and I have also secondarily experienced some egregious things done at the hands of another person. Most times, another person that is trusted. It is hard to forgive. I am not sitting here saying that forgiveness is an easy thing because it's not. It's not at all. We can find ourselves justified in our own feelings of resentment and bitterness. That's the truth. It's easy to hold on to those things. It feels more empowering, feels like you have every right, and it feels good for a little while until it doesn't anymore. And you find out that your bitterness has leaked into all of your relationships, just creeping in little by little. I tell my clients is not forgiving is like holding a cinder block on your back. Sure, you'll be able to carry it for a little bit, some longer than others. In your own strength, you can carry the cinder block on your back. After a while, whether you notice it or not, you're going to start bending yourself to hold the weight and to keep yourself comfortable through holding the cinder block on your back. And it getting heavier and harder to hold, that would make anyone bitter, wouldn't it? Yeah. You would start to resent that cinder block, wouldn't you? Yeah. So then you start to resent yourself. Why can't I just let it go? Because it sat there for a while and it's a process. But as soon as you decide to drop that cinder block, you feel lighter instantly. However, depending on how long you carried it, it's going to take a little while to go from this, dropping it, to getting back here, right? So be patient with yourself in the process. Now, I know that as believers or as people that grew up in the Bible Belt in the United States, right, that you have heard from the time you were little to forgive and forget. Would it surprise you if I told you that that is actually not biblical? Nowhere in the Bible does it say to forgive and forget. And people will usually use Jeremiah 31:34 as a reference point for this. Jeremiah 31:34 says, "No longer will one teach his neighbor or his brother, saying, 'Know the Lord,' for they will all know me, from the least to the greatest of them. This is the Lord's declaration, for I will forgive their iniquity and never again remember their sin." So you have to read in context, right? It does say that the Lord will forgive and forget, right? But forget in this passage doesn't refer to memory. It refers to covenant. And what is covenant? It's an agreement, right? And so doesn't it make sense that forgiveness would be kind of like a 3-tiered process, a threefold promise? Yeah, it would. So that threefold promise would be, number 1, I will not bring up this offense again to use it against you. Number 2 would be, I will not bring it up to others in gossip or malign you because of it. And number 3, I will not bring it up to myself and dwell on this offense. The failure to forgive breaks these 3 promises. It breaks the covenant. When we choose not to forgive, we choose to make the other person pay for what they've done. Why would you want that burden to make sure that someone walks out the thing that you forgave them for? Why should that be your responsibility? What they did, what they said, that wasn't your fault. You didn't do or say the thing. So why should it be your responsibility to make sure that they walk that out? Again, forgiving somebody doesn't change them. It changes you, and you are important. Now, let me tell you what forgiveness is not, what it does not mean. Forgiving somebody does not mean that you're weak. It does not mean that you condone the action or the behavior of the other person. It does not mean that you're a pushover. It does not mean any of that. Forgiving someone is a gift that you give them. It's a gift that you can offer someone else. And who do you give gifts to? People that you love. So forgiveness is an act of love. And what does love do? Love is going to challenge actions. It's going to create boundaries. And lack of holding someone accountable is not love. So to forgive and forget is actually being avoidant. It's being avoidant of the whole problem itself. We are to hold people accountable for the things that they do, but we have to forgive them in the process. Not practicing forgiveness hurts you, not the other person. Practicing unforgiveness means that you drink the poison expecting the person that wronged you to die. Well, in Matthew chapter 18, it's the story about this unforgiving servant, right? So the master tells him that he owes him, and the servant just begs the master to forgive his debt, tells him to give him a little more time. And the master agreed. He was gracious and gave the servant time. Well, what did that servant do? He took that and he went to another servant, was unkind to him, and demanded that he give him what he owed him. And when the other servant asked for his grace, what did he do? He choked him and demanded that he be paid now. And when the master saw what this one had done, then he held him accountable. Okay, someone has to be accountable for this debt, and I offered you grace. And then in your bitterness, you went and you harmed someone else. So by holding unforgiveness, all you're doing is escalating the problem when you were not the problem. So let's just say I let you borrow my car, right? And you bring it back to me with a flat tire. I could make you responsible for replacing the tire, or I could replace it myself, right? Either way, someone has to absorb the cost. If I absorb it, that means that I have forgiven you. If I've forgiven you, then I have canceled the debt. And now, since I chose to forgive it, I have chosen to release it, meaning I have taken authority over that. I no longer expect to be repaid for the loss that I have suffered. I made that choice, whether you deserved it or not. I made that choice. I want to draw your attention back to the definition from the APA, or the American Psychological Association, when it says it is an internal process aimed at personal healing and emotional relief. What does that tell you? That something has to change inside first. Well, what did we talk about the past couple of weeks? What is in here is going to flow out. So you do have to practice forgiveness inside. Now, again, back to forgive and forget. Let's be realistic. Just because you say out loud that you forgive someone does not mean that you will instantaneously just have amnesia, right? But you can choose to forgive every time you remember. And every time that you choose to forgive, every time that you remember, you are still speaking that over yourself and holding yourself accountable to that. Forgiveness begins as an attitude of forgiveness. It's something that we have to choose to practice first. It has to be present within me first. And I know that it would be so much easier to forgive someone if they felt that they needed to ask for forgiveness first. I get that. I really do. And I hear it all the time. Like, well, I'll forgive them if they ask for forgiveness. They may not even feel like they have anything to apologize for. And you can't change them, right? But you can change you. And so that's the second step of that process. Yes, it would be great if you had an apology, but you're probably not going to get one. Let's just make that realistic and clear. Choose to forgive anyway, because are you really going to continue to keep drinking that poison just because the offender has not come to you and asked for forgiveness? Are you going to let their failure be the excuse for you to hold on to the offense, the thing that is actively killing you? And for the believers, if you're not a believer and you don't have ears to hear, just cover them up. It's okay. But I'm speaking to the believers here. Believers, hear me when I say that forgiveness is a two-step practice and that the Bible does clearly point out that there are two axes, two things that we have to acknowledge to practice forgiveness, that vertical and that horizontal axis. That vertical axis can be found in Mark 11:25. That is the person to God. In that process, I am repenting for my bitterness that I hold because of the offender. And that horizontal axis can be found in Luke chapter 17, verse 3. This tells us that we cannot use the excuse of the offender not coming and asking us to forgive them as a reason to hold on to the resentment and the bitterness and the anger that we feel. We are called to forgive. In fact, Mark 11, verse 25 says, "And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, so that your Father in heaven will also forgive your wrongdoing." I want to draw your attention to these little words. And whenever you stand praying, whenever. That's a clause that says when you do this. So you are called to pray whenever you stand praying. Okay? If you have anything against anyone, if is a clause that means that you have a choice, right? So to hold unforgiveness or to forgive is a choice. Kind of goes back to the APA definition, right? Forgiveness is the voluntary, conscious decision to release feelings of resentment, vengeance, or bitterness toward a person who has caused harm, regardless of whether they deserve it. If in Mark 11, verse 25, so that your Father in heaven will also forgive you of your wrongdoing. So that, coming after if, that's the clause. You have a choice. So does the Father. The Father can forgive whoever he wants. He cannot forgive whoever he wants. But he tells you, if you forgive, he will forgive you. That's a promise. That's a promise. So where it's if for you and I, it's a decision, right? It's a choice. There is a consequence for the choice that we make. This language can be found all throughout the Bible. So as a believer in forgiveness and mental health and all of the things go, those two axes, that vertical and horizontal, as believers, that is the line that we toe to be in the world, but not of it. Because the world will tell you, oh yeah, you have every right to be angry. You have every right to be bitter at that person. Look at what they did to you. They don't deserve your forgiveness, especially if forgiveness is a gift, right? Why would you want to give your offender a gift? It's not a gift for them. It's a gift for you too, because it's going to let you drop that cinder block. And again, I just want to point out that this is something that I have not yet mastered. This is something that I could still take my own advice on as a fellow believer and as a mental health professional, okay? It's something daily that you have to choose to walk out. And some days are easier than other days, but I know that I'm trying, and I know that it has gotten easier. And there have been some positive things in my life that have happened because I made that decision. Don't be afraid to take your feelings to the Lord. Don't be afraid to take anger and bitterness and resentment to the Lord. Just because you give him those things doesn't mean that he's going to give you those things from him. Remember that David had a heart like God. And the reason that God delighted in him so much was because David did not sanitize his prayers. He did not make them all joy and all happy and all of those things. Now, did it most of the time come back to those things? Yeah, but it was because he was honest with the Lord in the first place. In fact, in Psalm 55, David is telling the Lord how betrayed he feels. He's like, it's not even my adversaries. It's not even the people that are coming against me in war. It is my own people. So the betrayal that he felt, he was honest with God. He told God what he would like to see happen, but he was honest about how he was grieved about it. And he sought the help of the Lord through forgiveness because he knew that God had forgiven him for all of the things that he had done. So I hope that this changes your mind about forgiveness, especially if you thought of forgiveness as a way of condoning or giving in to your offender or saying that it's okay. No, it's not saying that it's okay. It's saying, I'm going to choose to forgive you anyway. Feel the need to say, forgiveness does not equal reconciliation. I'm going to say that again. Forgiveness does not equal reconciliation. To reconcile with someone might send the message that they now get proximity. They now get to be in your circle again. No, that is not what that means. It means I've forgiven you, I've dropped the cinder block, and I refuse to pick it back up. It is okay to not reconcile with someone if forgiveness is not met with changed behavior. Forgiveness is required. Reconciliation is not. I hope this was helpful for somebody. I know I needed to hear it. I know I needed to do all of this reading about it too. And if you want to hear more about it, drop some comments, drop me some DMs, let me know. If there's any other topic that you want me to discuss, or that you want me to talk about next Tuesday, drop a comment, send me a DM, text me, call me, whatever. And yeah, I will see you next Tuesday. God bless you. Bye.